Hi everyone, we are live with the weekly crypto recap show, otherwise known as Hijinks and High Tea. So I do have my high tea ready. Oh, I do that every time. My video just started playing in the background. So it's like, you think after all these live streams, I'd remember to stop my video playing before we go live so I don't end up talking to everyone. As I was saying, I have my tea ready. We've got our hijinks ready. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Sarah, I really like that you've got your tea there as well. Kieran, you guys are awesome. And Truth Raider, you're way too dark. I can't see what's going on, but I'm hoping you have some tea there. I just wanted to introduce wait, Kieran, what was that? That wasn't tea. What was that? All right, so Kieran's we're drinking wine tea tonight. I wanted to introduce all of my amazing panelists. Welcome back to the show. Sarah Blinko, thank you so much for being back. Kieran Mosquita, thank you for being back on the show. And we have a new guest today. We have Truth Raider. You've probably seen him around the Twitter sphere, does a lot of product reviews on a bunch of different things. So thank you for joining the show today. It's wonderful to have you all.
Thanks, Naomi.
Yep. Thanks, Naomi.
It's like, everyone at once, it's like, I presume that you were all saying hi or something like that. And that's just what we'll go with. So we have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, this week, there's been heaps of chatter about the Bitcoin Cash fork, which, you know, you've got Craig Wright saying all this stuff, and then ABC Camp saying other things. So these battles going on, and so there's a lot to dissect there. It's a complicated issue, and so luckily we have some wonderful experts on our panel to help you kind of distill that information and figure out what the crux of this debate is. We're also talking about the sweeps that authorities are doing. It's called Operation Cryptosweep, which is about 200 crypto-regulated investigations going on right now into the ICO sphere. Obviously, not all ICOs are scams, but there are a lot of them out there. And so regulators are coming in and saying, we're going to basically be investigating all of these companies. So, I mean, that's interesting that that's going on. We'll be talking a little bit about that. We're also going to be talking about Coinbase. They recently set up some makeshift tent Faraday cages, which is kind of awesome. I'm really looking forward to maybe seeing Brian walking around with like a tinfoil hat as well, and just really going all out there. But there's some serious security concerns that they're dealing with. So we'll be talking about that and the precautions that they're currently taking, and also some alternative precautions that people should be taking for their security that are really important for people to know about. And so let's just launch straight into it. Let's start with Operation Cryptosweep. So you've got the North American Securities Administration Association. They announced on August 28th, so just a few days ago, it was that its ongoing initiative, Operation Cryptosweep, has resulted in 200 investigations of ICOs for crypto-related investment products. So this is really interesting. It's good for people who feel that they want the government to be protecting them from these things, and there are also some issues there as well. So Sarah, how about you take the reins with this and we'll launch straight in.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty interesting topic. I'm not much for governments, but I'm actually kind of surprised that it's only 200 because I've definitely been hit up through multiple channels for way more than 200 ICOs that are pretty much like relatively fraudulent just by first sight.
Free ether, send your money and we'll send you deposits.
Yeah, so I think ultimately this is going to be if the government is really looking at like total scams, they're going to find them. But I think more importantly is where the community can do better, which is making sure that there's, guidelines for identifying scams and helping people that are just now stepping into the space or just stepping in during the bull market where so many noobs got caught in, the height going up to 20K. They don't necessarily understand the technological background of some of these projects, let alone that most of these are just marketing, right? It's just a really great marketing team that is putting together words to make like a utopic platform that somebody would need. So I'm wondering if the government is going to find anything good, but I think ultimately scams have been called out so easily by the public of cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Like everybody that was in cryptocurrency knew that BitConnect was a scam. But I had a couple people that weren't in cryptocurrency that were like, this is amazing. You should definitely get in. So I think
really?
Yeah, and same with OneCoin, right? I had a friend from old MLM call me up and she was like, I know you're into Bitcoin, but there's this awesome opportunity for OneCoin. And I told her at that moment, I said, did you put in money? And she said, I put in 10K. And I said, you're never going to see it again. And you should not call any of your friends and do not put any of your friends in the position of losing their money because it's going to happen. And let it play out. She lost her money. And I'm hoping that she didn't bring anybody else on because of the warning that I gave her. But, you know, these things are interesting because there's a difference between like a total scam that's set up with malicious intent to steal from people. And then there's technological platforms where innovation is unknown and needed to be tried. And I think the free market is the one that should be the one that decides on scam or not a government, because, you know, government is the largest scam of all.
Hear to that. Also, I mean, you have so many third parties getting together, like industry professionals who are respected in the community, who are saying, we're going to have our own ICO standard board. Like I know that Crystal Rose is part of a board that's, you know, for ICO standards. And just a lot of people who are like, listen, the more we regulate this ourselves, the more we get it under control, the less the government's going to feel like it needs to come in and take over. And that's the last thing you want. As you said, Sarah, these are people who have no understanding of the technology, and we're going to trust them to regulate this industry. How on earth are they going to know what's a scam or not? I said last episode, Bernie Madoff was completely regulated. So this is not an entity that has the smarts to be able to distill this highly technical jargon. They're just not going to be able to figure it out. So, I mean, I hear a lot of talk at conferences about this, and it's getting louder and louder the more, like, as time goes on. More people calling for government and saying, well, how do we protect people? How do we, you know, regulate it properly to make sure that everyone is doing the right thing? And it's always baffling to me that they think that government is the only entity that could do this, you know, because they have a monopoly on the use of force. But really, reputation system is so important. And when you have respected industry players coming together and saying, listen, we understand the tech, we work full time in the tech, we get what's going on and you can trust us, and their products have proven that you can trust them, and their track record has proven that you can trust them, and they, you know, a lot of people respect them. I think that really we need to be leaning on these people who are giving their time to set these standards themselves, and relying more on that, because, I mean, they're far more informed than anyone from the government side is ever going to be.
Totally agree.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just my 2 cents on the topic, right? Like, the first time I saw this, I was looking at it and like, this is a very broad sort of aim that they're going for, right? So is it just going to be after BitConnect, or is it going to be harassing legitimate ICOs?
How's it going to know the difference, right?
So look, when the government comes in and tries to do something, people that are going to, you know, do bad things are going to do bad things anyway. You're just going to make it more difficult for legitimate ICOs to go in.
So I can I ask a question for the group?
Yep.
So I've invested in multiple ICOs, and here's the biggest question that I always come out with. What's the end state of that ICO? Because a lot of ICOs are ERC20 token-based ICOs. So you really don't know if they're a Ethereum scam or if they're an actually company that's based on actual principles. So how do you regulate an ICO knowing that a majority of them are Ethereum scams? That's my perspective.
I've found that when I look at ICOs, I immediately check if they are an ERC20 clone. And I've actually liked some of the projects that I've heard, but because they made the choice to use an ERC20 instead of maybe a more trusted chain or creating their own chain, because it was easy and because the liquidity was there, I often take a second look at the kind of the administrators or the higher ups and recognize, are they actually looking at these details? Like, for example, one of the projects that I really like is Sense. That's Crystal Rose's project. It's a chatbot platform they raised on an ERC20, which is why I wasn't really all that interested. And then last week, they announced that they were doing their chat platform and a token swap to EOS. And so from my point of view, it's a interesting thing for people that aren't as knowledgeable about the difference between an ERC20 token and an Ethereum token, or a, let's say an ARC chain. But to know that you're going to switch and not disclose that information to your original investors before you sell the token, for me, it's a little bit questionable. I still really like the project, but those types of ethics for me are like, at what point are you just using an ERC20 token so that you have liquidity and a shoe-in into these exchanges, instead of
exactly
breaking technological ground and saying, you know what, it may take longer, we may have less liquidity, it might be a harder move for us to get on exchanges, but we're not going to go with a standard that cannot scale to our user base. That, for me, is completely illogical.
Right. But I mean, there's huge issue with ERC20s as well. Just like the whole Ethereum network that you just see across so many networks. I mean, no one's really figured out scaling. There's some really interesting ideas out there at the moment. Like, I think Komodo's got some really interesting things that they're trying out. You've got other different, we're going to be talking in a second about Bitcoin Cash and whether they've, figured it out or whether they're still struggling. But it's just, I mean, it's such a hard thing to get around. But Ethereum in particular, everyone's been talking for a long time about their scaling. I think a lot of the reason people still buy into it, it's sort of this idea, it's idea of the future value of Ethereum. It's like, in the future, we think they'll figure this out. That's a big gamble you're taking there. I mean, we don't really know the technological limitations of any of these chains just yet, because they're still so new. We're still testing this out, and we have not received mainstream adoption in any of them. So we don't know what the capabilities are. So it's I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and whether this gamble is correct, if that the future value of these platforms is actually still going to be high, if it actually can reach more people.
I think at this point too, there are other options besides an ERC20 token. And for the most part, people aren't using them because the liquidity is not there. But like, for example, instead of building ERC20 token on top of Ethereum, where CryptoKitties could stall Augur and stall the entire chain, there's like the ARC blockchain, which instead of building on top, they build lanes, kind of like car lanes, to the side. So you've got your main ARC chain, but if you have an ARC token, you're not, and it becomes viral, right? You're not subject to another app reducing your ability to do transactions because they become viral. That's a very difficult thing. I think people just aren't looking very far because they've got money signs in their eyes with liquidity and adoption from exchanges.
Yeah.
So my 2 cents about ERC20, I have a lot of ERC20 tokens, but here's the biggest issue, and you guys all know this. The biggest issue with ERC20 is gas prices are ridiculous right now. You cannot control gas prices. It's unbelievable how much it costs in order to transfer an ERC20 token. Neo understands this. So does Tron. Other chains out there understand that the ERC20 token, the miners control so much of the token pricing that you can't control it. It's expensive. ERC20 became like a bank. That's my perspective.
Right. And I think that one of the main reasons why so many people got involved in ERC20 tokens, first of all, it was one of the earliest ways that you could really easily create your own coin. So that was exciting to a lot of people. I've made my own coin. I haven't released it to anyone because it's definitely a shit coin and not useful to anyone. But it's really easy to do it. And I don't think that we're there yet on a lot of the other platforms. Sarah, you've talked about ARK, and that seems really exciting. Like if there's a mechanism, if more players other than Ethereum make it easy for people to be creating their own coins and experimenting with this, I think less people are going to just be buying into ERC20 tokens by default.
I agree, but my biggest complaint right now, because I trade a lot of different ERC20 tokens, the gas prices are crazy right now. They're out of control. The miners have total control of pricing when it comes to gas price, and it's crazy. And that's why Ethereum right now, there's a huge crisis. Vitalik knows this. There's a huge crisis within the Ethereum platform, and they know it. I mean, it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when you have all of this going on, and when you have like kind of pseudo scams that are not really scammy but don't really have the technical capabilities that they're purporting to have, and then when you have a lot of companies who built their ICOs on promises, you know, again, future speculation about what we want to create. That's the whole point of these companies. Like, is it fraud to say, listen, we want to create this, we haven't done it, we want liquidity in order to fund that? Is that fraud? Is that an alternative investment model? Are consumers savvy enough to know the difference? And are they savvy enough to bet on people and to know the difference between companies that have got the tech side figured out and just need to implement it, and companies who are putting their money and liquidity into research and figuring out if something is okay? Like, I mean, it's like investing in gold prospecting. When you put into a company, let's say this company has a great track record and they've found gold many times before, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to invest in this one expedition, and then they come up with no gold, and it's like, wait, they had like a 98% success rate. Why didn't it go through? And it's like, oh, because they didn't actually know. You know, they're just prospecting. They didn't know something's there. Your expedition just happened to fail, right? I think a lot of people are going into these ICOs with, you know, on the basis of claims like, oh, we're going to build X, right? Some of the people have the technological capability to know that, yes, we will build X. Some of them are just saying, we would like to do this and we're going to put funding towards it. Who knows if it's really possible? And we're at such early stages with blockchain tech. We don't know what's possible. I mean, is it right to be protecting people from their own choices, though, even if some of these things don't pan out? Like, I mean, my answer is always, if you don't understand it well enough, you shouldn't be buying into this. You shouldn't be investing your money. You should just, you know, make smarter choices. Put your money in the S&P. Put your money in something else. I personally don't think that even if these companies like fail, and that to me is not a reason to be shutting any of them down. And if in hindsight, if the government is going to say, you made these bogus claims, you didn't, you know, come through, I feel like that's the risk that the investors are taking. Yeah. They should know at the outset, you know, I'm putting money into this company, they haven't developed this yet, they don't know if it's going to succeed. That's the risk you're taking when you're investing in it. If you want a sure thing, put your money into something that's already hitting their all-time highs, put it into Amazon and Apple and whatever else you want to look at. You shouldn't be taking a huge risk in this really, really new technology.
So in 2017, 50% of ICOs failed, meaning that every single Ethereum-based ERC20 token that was produced was given to the company as a failure to the ICO. So I agree with you 100%. You should never invest in an ICO if you're not willing to lose 100%. You should be willing to lose it all. So the question, though, is, here's a good example, Telegram. You guys all know Telegrams, right? Telegram was going to do an ICO in 2018, but their pre-sale and their investor sale, whatever, was so high, they made so much money, they never did an ICO because they made like $1 billion or whatever it is. So I guess the point is, we're so early into the blockchain and crypto sphere that it's so risky that you have to really know what to go after. You know, you have to really know the projects that might succeed in order to go forward. Because in reality, in 2018, 2017, 50% failed. In 2018, I guarantee 50% or more will fail again. You have to choose the ones that you believe in based on the product. That's my belief. It's got to be product based. That's the way I invest. That's my opinion, you know.
Who here has not lost any money on something that they've invested in the blockchain space? Has anyone been savvy enough to make all the right calls? Because I haven't. I remember I invested in, was it like Neo and B back in the day?
Yeah.
And then this guy just disappears and takes all the money, and everyone's like, but I really wanted this product. It seemed like it would be so cool. And also, I just lost a lot of money. You know, it's kind of like the first wake-up call that I had, that it doesn't matter how good someone's promo video is. You got to look at their track record. You've got to look at the product and know that even if all of those things fall into place, there's no guarantee. There's absolutely nothing safeguarding your investment. As you know, generally with any investment, you invest in a film, you invest in your next door neighbor's coffee cart. You know, there's no guarantee anything is ever going to work out. So I think people really need to realize that and not be looking for someone else to protect them from lack of research, you know, bad decisions. If there is fraud, definitely, absolutely. If people have shown to be fraudulently taking people's money and running away, great. You know, there's some recourse there, whether that recourse should be done by a government or a private protection firm or whatever, you know, version of or anarchical world you want to live in. But just saying I made a bad decision and I lost my money and they didn't end up working, it doesn't fly for me.
I think the other part of this for investors that are new is you have to realize that you're new and you don't have the inside track, and there is massive opportunity for accredited investors to get in early, well before you have even heard of the project. And I listened to this interesting podcast the other day with Laura Shin and Meltem, and they were talking about this waterfall where all these accredited, really in the loop people get these tokens early on. And when they come to you on exchange, they are making such a massive profit on you. If you still believe you're going to be able to make a profit on that, you should probably think twice, right? So you kind of have to realize it's called proprioception, where you are in space. If you're super new, you are taking a much larger risk than people that have been in the space and know the founders and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Do you want to say something else, Truth Raider? Otherwise, we will move on to the next topic.
I was gonna say, like, I agree with both of you guys. I own dozens, probably more than dozens of cryptos. But for example, Tron, TRX, that is my golden goose. If Tron goes well over the next 10 years, my life is good. If it doesn't, then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Because like Tron is bigger than just a cryptocurrency. I don't know if you guys know what BitTorrent is. I knew about BitTorrent 10 years ago, and Tron bought it. Tron is also buying a company called Chia. And Chia is huge. And most people on crypto don't even know what Chia is. I studied that as well. I studied BitTorrent because I was part of it, or not part of it, but I knew about it.
Give us a rundown on Chia for anyone who's had their interest piqued.
Chia, okay, so BitTorrent, everybody knows what BitTorrent is. Justin Sun bought it. Justin Sun, who is the Tron CEO, also bought Chia. Chia is basically, it's a version of cryptocurrency that it's a green version of crypto. It's a way, I don't want to say too much about it because he hasn't put it out, but research Chia and you'll see what it is. But it's a green version of utilizing. Do you remember when when BitTorrent came out, it basically was, okay, there's millions of computers on planet Earth. Let's maximize that and let's share downloads, right? That's what BitTorrent was. Let's share the downloads from millions of computers across the planet. Chia takes it to the next level and figures out how to, anyway, I'm not going to talk about it, but Chia's next level, look it up. It's way, Justin Sun just bought interest in Chia. And it's a way to gain, to mine. It's a way of mining that's green. Do you know green energy, right?
Okay, well, maybe we'll do an episode on it, and
Yeah.
we'll explore it further once things come up. But let's move on to the next topic, because we've got a lot of stuff to get through.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Coinbase. And recently, setting up their Faraday cages. I wish I would screen share right now, but I have way too many tabs open. It would just be embarrassing. But I want to show you guys this picture. There's like this Faraday cage tent thing set up. And basically, Coinbase is trying to get institutional investors involved. And they're taking this precaution to stop people intercepting transmissions and to make things more secure for everything going on within their system. So Truth Raider, do you want to take the reins on this one and talk to us a little bit about like what they're doing and what's some options, like what are some things people need to be keeping their eye on in terms of security and measures they should be taking?
So Coinbase and Brian Armstrong and there's two different ways. You've got software and you got hardware types of Bitcoin security, right? So basically what he's doing is he's creating this Faraday cage, which is a sci-fi type ridiculous thing where it keeps electromagnetic energy from entering inside so people can't get access to your encryption keys. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but Coinbase is literally doing it because the biggest problem to institutional or private investors is Bitcoin theft. Anywhere from $2 to $3 billion a year of Bitcoin is stolen every single year. It's an ungodly number. It's underreported in the media, but it happens. And Coinbase understands it. And so for mass adoption to happen, they need to convince institutional investors that, let's say I want to invest $100,000 into Coinbase and I want to buy Bitcoin. The biggest fear that person will have is that when they invest the money, someone can access their account through a software wallet and steal all their money, whether it be a phone, a computer, a database, pick your access point. And so they've created Faraday cages in Coinbase in order to protect people's money from being stolen.
I mean, I think that's so awesome. That's actually something that
awesome.
I've considered. Like, I set up an OpenBazaar account ages ago, and I was like, what are some things I can, sell? Because I just wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be part of this decentralized marketplace. And I was like, ooh, maybe I can sell like branded Faraday cages for people's phones. Because I mean, that's a huge issue. I hate having my phone next to me when I'm talking about anything. It doesn't matter because you never know who's got control of your microphone, who's got control of your camera at all times. Like every time, you guys know when I tune into my live stream, you always, first of all, you'll like see this because it's like covered at all times, And so I think the Faraday cage idea is
And I love Brian Armstrong for doing that because I don't know if you guys buy Bitcoin through Coinbase, but it's an insecure system. Buying Bitcoin through an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy is not secure. I don't care who tells you it is, they're lying. So they're liars. So Brian Armstrong knows that, and that's why he came up with an institutional version of buying Bitcoin through a Faraday cage, because he knows it's bullshit. He knows you need additional security.
So one of the points that you make, Truth Radio, is that, like, for an everyday person, first of all, it's really difficult for someone who's not tech savvy to know what security precautions they should be taking. Obviously, Coinbase is an awesome option for people just entering the space, because it's far better for them to go through an institution like Coinbase, who at least, you know, they've got millions of dollars on security. And they, you know that it's going to be easy. Like, you log onto their website and it's just, everything is simple. Link your bank account. Like, everything is kind of automated. And at the same time, you know, perhaps keeping your money on exchanges or with third parties isn't necessarily the best security precaution. So obviously there are some alternatives out there. I'm not sure that I would recommend alternatives to someone new into the space, but maybe someone who's gotten their feet wet and they're starting to figure things out could be at a level where they're ready to try other things, move their funds out of somewhere like Coinbase. So Truth Raider, tell me about some of your favorite products for someone who's got their feet wet, kind of knows where it's at, and is ready to move on to something more secure.
So if I love Coinbase, so don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Coinbase. I think Brian Armstrong has a great product. I think Coinbase, if me personally, Coinbase is the best wallet on any phone on the planet today. However, you should always buy your Bitcoin and move it to a hardware wallet. If you keep your Bitcoin on either a hardware wallet or an exchange, you're risking the ability to lose that Bitcoin.
Can I provide an alternative opinion here? So I think that where you keep your coins depends entirely on what you're protecting against. So I think for a lot of people, they need to be protecting against themselves. I lose my passwords all the time, you know. If I can just give my money to someone else and say, you're spending millions of dollars on your infrastructure and you will, you know, protect my account, that could be a bonus, you know. Obviously, I have lots of different methods, and I've tried out lots of different hardware wallets or paper wallets or all kinds of things for storing. But I think that for an average person who doesn't want their entire life to be crypto, who doesn't want to have to keep track of, you know, oh, okay, I have it on this, and this is my PIN for that, and then, you know, my private key is stored elsewhere, and I've written that down, and I'm put that in my safety deposit block, but I needed 2 versions, so I have to keep that there, and like keeping track of all that stuff is super hard. So I would say, like, if you're protecting against, you know, if you're protecting against government and you don't want your funds to be seized or frozen, which is totally legitimate, look at what happened in places like Poland or Cyprus, and your money in bank accounts just disappears. Absolutely. Do not keep your money in exchanges, because they are so susceptible to coercion from state actors that I think that's a really important thing to protect against. If you're protecting, if you're just investing in this because you think it's interesting, and you're protecting against yourself, and you just want something that you know they're taking care of their security, and you don't have to worry about anything, and there are ways for you to even recover your funds if you lose your password. You just have to prove that you are who you are. I think that, you know, one of these institutions is totally great. So yeah, sorry, continue, Truth Raider.
So here's the thing that a lot of people understand, and I agree with you 1,000% about exchanges. Exchanges are not safe. But here's the other part. A lot of people don't understand we're in the infancy of Bitcoin. So this is phase like 1 of 1,000. Here's the reality. There's 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist on this planet. The Chinese, the Russians, and multiple other countries. Here's the thing. A database of every single wallet address on the planet is not very difficult to come up with. Phase 1. Phase 2. Figuring out who owns the iPhone that has a Coinbase account with that address on it is also not very difficult to figure out. So my point is, yes, in 2018, you're right, but 3 or 4 years from now, China, Russia, and every other country on the planet, they're going to know what your address is, they're going to know what your phone number is, and they're going to know how to get into your phone and steal your money out of your Coinbase account, your Robinhood account, or any other account you have on a software wallet. That's the reality. So what I preach is Bitcoin hardware wallets. So at least they have 2 or 3 different layers to go through to even steal your Bitcoin. That's the reality that I try to preach to people. I may be wrong, but I would at least I would love to at least be proven wrong.
That's it's kind of terrifying and also a great slap in the face of reality that you know, if you're tying your address and your name to these things, then they just become a lot easier to track down. You know, that's why Bitcoin sort of came about, so you don't have to go through all this KYC, and now governments are involved and they're like, no, we're enforcing the KYC. So big players like Coinbase have to, you know, go along those lines. Which is why I'm interested in them exploring the what are they called? The decentralized ID mechanisms, like identity systems. So that's really interesting for me, because if they can take storing that information out of the equation, and so that there is no database to hack to get people's addresses and all of that, that's a really great step forward. But so that's, I mean, that's one of the downsides of a place like Coinbase. But then look at, I'm interested in one of the downsides of some of the other tech that's out there. For example, you have hardware wallets, and I use a bunch of different hardware wallets that I think are really awesome. They all have their downsides and their upsides. My biggest fear is always like, what if I just want to buy something and then check back in 5-10 years? How do I guarantee that this company is even still going to be around, that they're going to be solvent, that they're still updating, that they're still fixing bugs, that they're, you know, keeping track on their security protocols? Is this something that I have to be, you know, super in tune with at all times to make sure that my funds are safe? What if I have an issue and the company goes out of business? I only find out later, and then I have some issue with getting my funds and I can't contact anyone at support to access it. Like, the problem for me with having some of these hardware wallets is, how do you trust that they're going to always be around, that and that the tech is always going to be sturdy?
So let me give you a quick cyber wake-up call. Let's say I know your phone number. I know how to access your phone number. Let's say you have an app called Coinbase on it. Let's say I know your phone number, I know how to get into your Coinbase account, and I know how to take money out of your bank account and buy Bitcoin, and I know how to transfer it to a wallet outside your Coinbase to another wallet and transfer that money into an account that I own. And now I own Bitcoin from you because I was able to hack your phone. A hardware wallet, you cannot do that. You're not able to hack a hardware wallet unless you can physically hack the device. A phone is, and anybody that any hacker knows that a phone, whether it's an iPhone or a Samsung, if you hack the phone, you can get into any application on that phone. That is a fact. So a hardware wallet is kind of like, yes, it can be hacked too. However, it's a second layer of defense versus, yes, I've hacked your phone and now I have access to every application that's linked to your credit cards. Which would you prefer? Having your Bitcoin on a cell phone that can be hacked and they can buy Bitcoin or steal Bitcoin, or a hardware wallet which requires some type of a code to get into that you don't have access to? So the hardware wallet is a second layer of defense. That's not perfect. I would never say a hardware wallet is unhackable. I'm just saying that a phone is easily hackable, comparable to a hardware wallet. That's why I preach hardware wallets.
Yeah, and paper wallets are also really awesome to explore, great for gifts as well. Just be really careful. I've talked to a lot of people through this process, and I should do a video on this actually, but you've got to be careful because your printer stores a digital image. If it's a new printer, it stores a digital image of everything you've printed. And if your printer is connected via Bluetooth, or connected to the internet, then your printer is really, really hackable. So just be really careful if you're thinking, well, I'm going to print out a paper wallet, this is secure. Make sure your printer is not connected to the internet. If you can, make sure that you have a printer that doesn't store digital files so that people can access your private key that you printed out. But
hey, Naomi, I'm curious what Kieran thinks about what I just said. I'm curious his perspective.
Right. So as someone that's a programmer and done a little bit of security work, for me, if anyone out there runs an exchange or is thinking of starting one, please look at Glacier Protocol. Same goes for anyone that's got a large amount of Bitcoin. If you happen to be a Bitcoin millionaire, maybe investing a little bit of time into learning Glacier Protocol is good. And it's open source, so you're not worrying about a company that could potentially go bankrupt or anything, right? You just need a copy of the software, and that's it. I think hardware wallets are great for people that aren't, the problem with Glacier Protocol is you do need to have a certain amount of technical knowledge, and there are other offline, cold storage protocols, right? So I think hardware wallets are a good middle ground between going, full Glacier Protocol, cold storage, setting up a Faraday tent, like has, and Faraday tents are great. I remember there was a hacker a while back where people were able to figure out how the crypto chip on Intel CPUs worked. So every time you do calculations on an electronic device, right, or any sort of operation, it affects the magnetic field around that device. So people were able to figure out how the crypto chip on the magnetic field, the crypto chip in an Intel processor affected the magnetic field around it, and were able to pull keys off that. So
really?
Wow.
So if you're really paranoid, right, get yourself a stand and set up a Glacier Protocol laptop in there. Use something like LibreBoot on a FSF, Free Software Foundation certified laptop, or Purism. If you don't have enough Bitcoin to justify going to that much expense, I think a hardware wallet is great. It is relatively easy to use compared to these sort of solutions, or Armory even, I believe, with some of the earlier cold storage implementations. And every day, if you want to store like $5, $10 in a phone account, in a mobile phone wallet, maybe that's fine. If you have anything significant, use a hardware wallet. I recommend using something with a secure enclave. So the Ledger Nano has one. A secure enclave is basically a chip which is designed to handle crypto operations. So you don't have, it mitigates the attack, it prevents or somewhat lessens the chances that someone's going to be able to sniff keys off your hardware device by either opening it up or sticking that's my take on things.
Kieran, can you and I set up an interview for next week where you decipher what you just said? Because I'm missing so much of this, and I know that there are a lot of people out there who would love to take precautions if they just understood what the good methods are. I've known about Glacier Protocol for a long time. One of my friends was an advisor on there, but it's something that I've never had the technical confidence to explore. So I would love to just kind of go into and delve a little bit deeper into what you just said and some of these precautions that you're recommending. And also, TruthWriter, I know you've done a lot of videos on different hardware wallets that you've tested out, so that would be great. I'll send me some links to your favorite ones, and I'll post them in the info of the video as well for that. But I want to move on to the next topic, final topic of today, which is going to eat up a bit of time. So Bitcoin Cash drama. So we have battle lines that have been drawn. There is a scheduled fork. You've got basically the ABC camp that is versus the N chain, and you've got people like Vitalik chiming in saying, you should take this as a chance to extricate yourself from fake Satoshi. And then you've got the owner of Bitcoin.org chiming in saying, I have like this nice proposal for all of you. So Kieran, how about you take the reins on this one, and you talk to us, explain what is going on with Bitcoin Cash? Let's get into the nitty gritty of what this argument is actually about.
All right. Well, just in advance, I want to head off someone that I know is going to be angry on Twitter or in the comments. No, I don't like Wormhole, and I'm not going to be personally using it. Not something that I'm interested in.
Someone's going to be angry on Twitter or the internet? Does that happen?
Oh, oh.
Sorry, Kieran, continue. This is important. I'm
Right. So the point of contention really behind this whole drama seems to be something that Bitcoin ABC is an implementation of Bitcoin Cash. So something that Bitcoin ABC has proposed called Wormhole. Now, Wormhole is a way of doing some limited smart contracts and building tokens on top of Bitcoin, sort of like ERC20 tokens. And Wormhole, like the technology behind Wormhole is pretty much Omni. So Omni's been around since 2015 on Bitcoin. It's been operating on Mastercoin since 2013. So it is, relatively speaking, in the crypto world, it is some very well-tested technology. It is pretty secure as well. So I don't have any issues with Wormhole on that. From that standpoint, Wormhole is also allowed by the current Bitcoin protocol or Bitcoin Cash protocol rules, right? So basically, the feature set that Wormhole requires to work is already in Bitcoin Cash, right? So the point of contention here, where people seem to be worried about, right? Should we use Wormhole? Shouldn't we use Wormhole? And this whole Bitcoin SV fork, Bitcoin Satoshi's vision, which Craig Wright has proposed, a bit pretentious, right? Calling it Satoshi's vision.
Satoshi's vision. I hate that phrase so much. It's like, we had this white paper that was created, and I actually just did an interview with Scott Stornetta, who was cited, I think, like 3 or 4, depending on how you account for it, times out of 7 or 8 references in the Satoshi white paper. I chatted to him about this very topic, and he was basically saying, there was this hankering for digital money, and Bitcoin came along, and everyone had been trying to solve this problem for so long that when Bitcoin came along, everyone was like, this is good enough, and he wasn't saying that as a backhanded compliment. He was saying, no, this is amazing. This is a problem no one has been able to solve. Bitcoin clearly isn't perfect. If you even look at the code, there are like fence post issues all over the place, but it was good enough. And to have someone come along and be like, it's always the white paper, nothing else, is sort of like, really? You don't think we can improve upon this? You don't think that this is going to get better? Anyway, it just seems like he's trying to roll this back to be like, this is always ever going to be what Bitcoin is going to be, which it just doesn't seem realistic. But continue, Kieran.
Right. So, this whole Bitcoin SV thing, right? Basically, what Bitcoin SV proposes, so the hard fork, which Bitcoin SV wants to do, I believe it's scheduled this November, removes features from Bitcoin Cash. Okay, so these features are already in Bitcoin Cash. They're being used by Wormhole, and Bitcoin SV wants to remove these features to prevent Wormhole from working. The problem that I have with this is basically, Bitcoin is meant to be a permissionless system, okay? If you have something you want to build on top of Bitcoin, maybe it's Wormhole, you don't need to go to anyone and ask them, hey, please, can I use this? I don't need to go to the government and ask them for permission, to open a bank. I have to go, ask someone for permission to open a bank account. I don't need to do that with Bitcoin. I just download an app and I've got a Bitcoin account. So the problem that I have is Bitcoin SV removing features because, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to prevent you from ever doing this, right? That is the problem I have, and that seems to be the big point of contention around this whole Wormhole, upgrade, if you will. I personally don't like Wormhole. I wouldn't be using it. I won't use it. I think there are... I did state earlier that, yes, Omni has been around for some time. It is relatively well-tested technology. There is still the possibility that Wormhole could add in extra flaws or a potentiality. there is that possibility, as every time you add something extra, you do always run that risk. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be able to stop someone from doing something because you don't agree with that.
Hey, I have a question for you, man.
Yeah.
What's the purpose? I'm a very anti Bcash guy. I own Bcash, but I hate it. So, what's the purpose of Bcash trying to tokenize its system, or to build dApps or any other type of system on top of it, when Bcash was supposed to be the transactional version of Bitcoin? Like, I don't get it. What's the purpose of it?
I mean, I don't really have a comment on that, really. I don't myself. I don't like the way that it's trying to push itself as being Bitcoin, but look, it's an open source. Bitcoin's open source. I think people should be able to do what they want to with the code, fork it, do whatever they want.
Just
they want to build something, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree with the fork. I agree with the fork aspect, but I mean, Roger Ver is very big into, he wants to create an ICO. He wants to fork Bcash. Everything he's coming up with has nothing to do. His whole purpose of Bcash was to try to create a currency version of Bitcoin. And it's now in 2018, I have no idea what Bitcoin Cash is. I can't describe it. That's just me. That's my personal opinion.
Wait, you can't describe it, but you really hate it?
I hate Bcash. It's not Bitcoin. It doesn't satisfy the needs that Bitcoin was created for, in my opinion.
So
that's just
well, right now, I mean, it's kind of interesting also to see Craig Wright being really, really anti all of these changes, and he's going to do his own thing. And then just bringing up what Vitalik said, who said, listen, people want to fork, just let them fork. This is a good way to extricate yourself from a bad player in the space who has basically been riding on the idea that he is Satoshi when he's clearly not, and Vitalik's called him out like fake Satoshi, and a lot of people call him out. So I apologize if there are any Craig Wright people in the chat. He's not Satoshi. Just going to come out and say it.
Yes,
not it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, like, do you guys agree with this? Like, if Bitcoin Cash wants to fork, and they bifurcate into two different camps, and Craig's over here, maybe the Craig coin is just going to die. Maybe we're just going to not see him anymore, and he'll just become an insignificant player. Because I see value in Bitcoin Cash. When I've traveled around the world, I think the last time that I purchased something for Bitcoin was in Gibraltar, and even then, it was like $6 transaction fee at the time. And I was like, my juice costs $6. This is the last time I'm going to do this for a video. And since then, I actually have paid in quite a few places with Bitcoin Cash. So I see it as valuable. This is money that was in my account that I could use in a foreign country without transferring into that local currency. That's value, in my opinion. Whatever you may say about like your marketing practices and whatever else, the currency was valuable to me. So I'm just wondering, do you think that there is value in extricating like one side of Bitcoin Cash from the Craig Wright side?
I've actually got a to make on the. So you said, okay, just let Craig fork his own coin, and that coin can go and die, right? But the way that the hard fork that Craig is proposing is structured, it's something called a contentious hard fork. So
say that again. Yes. You cut out a second.
Yeah. Contentious.
The fork that Craig is proposing is something called a contentious hard fork. So the way that a contentious hard fork works, basically you don't include something called replay protection. Replay protection only takes about 5 minutes for any good developer to add into a project, right? So if you don't have replay protection in a hard fork, then you basically force there could be a scenario where only one coin can survive. Neither of them can survive side by side. The reason for this is basically you have, Naomi, if I was to send you 50 coins on on the original chain, right?
Let's test that out.
Transaction and broadcast it onto the new forked chain and steal the coins that I actually have on the forked chain, right? So because of that effect, one of the coins are necessarily going to lose, because you can't have a coin that has value and can just be stolen every time someone uses the other chain. So really pushing this point, it's either my way or the highway, as people like to say.
Kieran, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This is a non-technical question. Okay. So since Bcash forked from Bitcoin, right? What is the realistic impact of Bcash hard forking again in 2000, whatever, let's say 19, when it comes to like the consumer? Like the average person is not smart like you or the average developer. When they hear about Bitcoin and then Bcash hard forking and then it hard forking again, what kind of confidence level does that give into the average, in an institutional investor? They're going to be like, this is bullshit. Every year, a crypto just hard forks because they can't come to a consensus. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a pattern of these hard forks that keep happening where it's hard to get institutional investors to say, this is legitimate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I don't like hard forks for this reason. I especially don't like contentious hard forks for the reason the thing I explained about 5 minutes ago, right? I like user-activated soft forks. Basically, a soft fork allows you to add in features to a cryptocurrency while still maintaining backwards compatibility. So if I, as a business, don't want to use a particular feature, I'm not forced. If it was a hard fork, I'd either be forced to upgrade if I want to keep pace, or end up going off into my own chain. That's my answer to your question.
So let me give you a better example. Let's say that this is 1987, and we are Microsoft, right? And all of a sudden they say, hey, Microsoft, we don't like what is happening, so we're going to be Microsoft Lite or Microsoft Cash, or pick a name. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people are not going to adopt cryptocurrencies as like mass adoption if we can't control the way that we utilize this space. Do you see what I'm saying?
Did you say to control the way we utilize this space?
Yeah,
antithetical to using cryptocurrency. Who wants to control the behavior?
No, that's not what I meant. What I mean is psychologically, because what I mean is human behavior. There's 7 billion people on the planet. Psychologically, we want to believe that whatever we're following is secure, legitimate, and has a value as humans. So if every year a crypto hard forks every 12 months, psychologically, we're just going to say, this is not a legitimate way to conduct transactions. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, that is a point that I've heard people bring up at conferences where they say, listen, I believed in Bitcoin and the limited supply until I kind of realized that you can fork. And what's interesting about that, I mean, forking itself isn't bad, and I think it's a great aspect of Bitcoin tech. But what was interesting when Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash forked was you expected that the value of each one to add up to basically the value before, and it just didn't. Bitcoin really didn't lose any value. And on top of that, everyone gained. Like, like right off the bat, $400. That was crazy to me. Like, really, Bitcoin, the value of the total sum of Bitcoin, both camps just increased by, like, your value just increased by $400.
Yeah.
So that I think that's a legitimate concern, that if people are going to fork and then automatically, like, it doesn't have the value of that, you're literally just creating, $400 worth of value out of thin air. But the issue is that can't happen too many times without people realizing. Like, I don't think that people on the futures markets, if Bitcoin Cash forks and then next week they fork again and then next week they fork again, like on futures exchanges, you're not going to have huge amounts of money for these coins. Like, people aren't going to be wanting to buy these coins unless they think they're valuable. And like the, nth split of this chain isn't going to be seen that valuable to people. So I don't think it's a legitimate concern at the moment, because the market tends to sort these things out, and people aren't just going to demand, these, nth forks of coins.
But that's what Roger Ver is believing, because Bitcoin Cash dropped by like 80-something%, and now he's doing an ICO, and there's a hard fork coming. So that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly the case for what I'm explaining. He realizes the value of if you bought Bitcoin Cash today or 12 months ago, the value is like 80-something% declined. So he's creating a hard fork.
Well, that's a bit unfair, because the entire crypto market is like 80% declined. I mean, we hit over 20,000, and now we're sitting at currently 7,000 for a Bitcoin. So like, the whole market's gone down.
I agree, but why does Roger Ver need an ICO?
I think this is an interesting point to look at how consumers around the world actually are participating, and not to like get completely off topic, because we had a topic about Venezuela and the petro 2 weeks ago, and it stirred something inside of me, because I felt like we were all kind of just like, we're not sure, but we think this is how it's going. And in 2 weeks, I've interviewed 3 Venezuelans that are seeking asylum or are current refugees. And not to go too far off topic, but for this fork part, it's still a very kind of structured community that actually know about these things. And value is perceived by the end user who's actually using Bitcoin for transactions. So like Naomi buying a $6 drink and then having a $6 fee, that was like a pain point for her. And so when I looked at it with the Venezuelans, is that most of them know what Bitcoin is. Almost all of them know what the petro is and think it's a scam. They believe that Bitcoin can be their savior. But one of the points that was brought up on a call today was that the microtransactions are the most important part for them, right? Because they need to be able to do microtransactions for goods and services that are well below $6. And when you're looking at how these hard forks are going to play out in the little community, and you look at Twitter, it's like massively volatile and like crude and really rough. But these are the waters that are going to create the technological advancement, which could potentially save entire groups of people. And the opportunity for tech to be fought over and to be hard forked and all this, I think is a wonderful opportunity. It's really interesting when you can say, well, a contentious fork then can basically create the opportunity for coins to be stolen from a trusted chain. But I think we really have to look at this from a little bit outside of the bubble, right? Because we all live inside of the crypto bubble. If you're watching this, you probably think about crypto all day, every day. Whereas the people that I've talked to in the last 2 weeks are using cryptocurrency to survive. And it's a very different experience for them. Now, they may use a different crypto, like Dash actually was brought up as a cryptocurrency that has been adopted within Venezuela. Now, speaking with 2 different people, one was like, Dash is not something that's used here, it's only Bitcoin. And then the other guy was like, my friends only use Dash. So there's going to be the same style of fractalness where some people are in this camp and some people are in this camp. This works for this use case and this doesn't. I think ultimately, like, allowing the free market to figure out is going to be one of the most valuable things. So not restricting people technologically from doing, go ahead and fork it. See what happens. If anybody adopts your tech, then you've got a valuable coin.
Right. I think these are wonderful points and probably great points to end on, as we have run out of time. If you want a quick overview of the market, things are creeping up. Like this time last week, basically, I mean, as we've learned, almost all coins are completely correlated in this market. So you're thinking you're diversifying your funds, like, oh, well, I bought 100 different coins. It's like, no, they're all going to be moving together. Let's face that fact. So basically all the markets have had the same movements over the past week. Generally, everything is higher than it was a week ago. Is this a bullish trend? I don't know. I tell you the price predictions, and you guys make up your own mind. I have no idea. Long term, maybe Brockwell remains bullish and optimistic. That's such a surprise to you all. But in the meantime, no one knows what's going to happen next week. Maybe we have another crash. Maybe it goes to the moon. But that's basically where we're at the moment. Bitcoin currently, according to my ticker, is at $7,026, according to whatever exchange I have it plugged into there. So if you're watching this listening to this on the podcast, or watching this and you wanted to know where things were at when you watched this video, that is where it was at. But this has been wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in on the live chat. This has been absolutely fantastic. And thank you to you three. You're just such a wealth of knowledge, and I just love having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us for the first time, Truth Raider. And send me some links to some of the different hardware wallets that you've reviewed, because I love to post them so people can find out more about different things that you recommend. Kieran, thank you so much for sharing your expertise on all of the intricacies, and I am lining up that interview with you to talk about Glacier Protocol and all of these things. And Sarah, I'm so looking forward to hearing more of these stories about what's actually going on in Venezuela. I know that people speculate about it. I'm still going on knowledge that I gained when I looked into this a couple of years ago, and it's just so great to see someone like updating the community and say, in real world, this is actually what's going on. So I know that we've been chatting about that some more, and I'm excited about that too. But thank you all for being here. This has been a lovely Friday afternoon. I've been so grateful to share it with you all, and I will see you next week. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend if you're in America. Enjoy your tea and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
See you. Thank you, Naomi.